So I've been fortunate enough to play a fair amount of Wayfinder during its closed beta tests, but I've been asked how does it play, what was my experience like playing it, and I guess what you guys can expect when the game goes live into early access in May. And I haven't been able to answer those questions until now, so make sure to watch all the way to the end as I go over a lot of the systems that you can expect with Wayfinder later on this year. So today's video is a little bit longer than usual. Now in today's video I want to go over the hunts, the expeditions, the ecosystem, Affinity, and just my general thoughts on my time spent playing Wayfinder during the beta tests. Wayfinder is being developed by Airship Syndicate, which is the team behind Battle Chasers Night War, Ruined King, Darksiders Genesis, and recently Varuna and Warframe. And the art style of this beautifully crafted world is very much what you would expect from Joe Mads and his team. It's kind of their thing. But also there is a heavy influence from Digital Extremes with some of the systems in the game, which are very hard to ignore for someone like me who comes from a Warframe background, and I guess for you guys as well. And for me, it will be the best way to explain them to my community. Now the footage in this video is my own from my beta experience, and it is also low level content and still very much in development with a lot of placeholder items, placeholder NPCs. The UI is still being worked on as well as the image for drops, and the waypoint system had issues at times as well. Basically everything that you can expect from a proper test phase of a game. But none of that will stop you from getting a general idea of what Wayfinder is going to be about, from uncovering the story of the game to running the Lost Zone expeditions, which are dungeons in Wayfinder, or running the hunts, which are kind of the boss battles. These play a huge part in what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, from progressing through the story as you unlock them and leveling up to farming the bosses in them for weapons or Wayfinder specific parts, or echoes, which are like mods from Warframe. They alter your Wayfinder's stats and playstyle a lot, but I'll get into the echoes in a minute. So first up, let's take a look at the expeditions and the hunts, which you access from the Gloomsphere, in town, or in the open world once you actually find them. Of course, you're going to find them as you progress through the story. Each one has a recommended power level that you should be at or near before trying to run them, and the expeditions are procedurally generated dungeons that you can run solo or in a 3-man squad. Expeditions like Codex Halls, Undercroft, sounds familiar, or the Repository. They reward you for exploring them, and many other ones that I hadn't unlocked. Now they reward you for exploring them and completing their events more so than speedrunning them. When you run these, there is a chest symbol and a progress bar on the top of your screen, and the more of this dungeon that you explore and clear out, the more this bar will fill up and the better your rewards will be at the end of that run. If you die and need to respawn, then you might find that bar being reduced and losing out on some of those extra rewards, so you have to be careful at higher power levels. Not to mention on boss fights you might only have a set amount of revives before having to craft the key for that boss fight and go back in for a second attempt. So these expeditions also have events for you to take part in, which could be anything from a mini boss to surviving against waves of enemies and so on. There is also chest puzzles, there is traps that can deal damage to you, there is hidden rooms with chests inside those as well. You're going to have to parkour around to try and get into, so you're going to have to keep an eye out for those as well. Now, to increase the difficulty or to alter some rewards that you can get at the end of one of these expeditions, you can combine elemental imbuements at the start of an expedition or hunt in order to change how those will play out. Give them basically mutators. As an example, I've ran mutators that covered the floor with toxic mushrooms, which meant constant damage over time unless you shoot those mushrooms and clear the way. I've had ones with constant eruptions underneath my feet, meaning you have to keep moving, or making enemies explode on death, leaving a pool of damaging stuff on the ground as well. Or you can coat enemies in gold for increased coins, but they now have a lot of armor and are harder to kill, so you have to break that armor. So things can get very interesting with the imbuement system, and the imbuement system also opens up a lot of potential for future editions as well, giving you more replay value, I guess, of certain dungeons, especially if you're farming for certain materials that you can only get with these imbuements. Now, the breaking of that armor I mentioned with the gold covered enemies is a mechanic that you're going to have to get used to within Wayfinder. A lot of enemies have a yellow bar above their health bars, and by dealing break damage to it, it will eventually reduce that bar down to 0, open them up to increased damage and staggers as well. The same goes for bosses. Kind of like Eximus units in Warframe, but you can build specifically for break damage if you want to, and this will make some fights much easier. Or a two-handed weapon could break enemies faster, or you could equip echoes to build for break power damage. You get the idea. Now these mutators can be done to bosses as well. and it adds a new challenge to those bosses like I said. Some might also change what rewards those bosses give. Now that's the dungeons. I got as far as I think level 18 on my silo, so I advanced a fair bit and I got to level 24 I think on my Wingrave and completed the beta story. So I got a good example of what the system is like in terms of running those expeditions, those dungeons, and going out into the big open world as well. And I really enjoyed it. Now, it's not perfect, right? It's still being worked on, and at times I felt like enemy density was a little bit low in areas, especially in the open world. There was areas of it that just looked beautiful, but it was a little bit lacking in terms of what you could kill. But again, most of what I ran was low level, so that's understandable. Now, next up, let's talk a little bit about the main open world area. Just a little, because I don't want to spoil it. There was a lot of side quests around from NPCs to help level you up outside of the main story quests. There was points of interest for you to find, there was challenge chests, there was minor world bosses as well as major world bosses. There was gloom events that you need to clear out, where there's a gloom shard on the ground and you basically have to damage it and kill all the enemies that keep spawning. There is a gloom gate that you can go into and kill the boss inside it. I also found a huge fire golem that one-shot me. I think it was like level 40 or something, and it just straight up slapped me around the place. Right now, I think there is 3 or 4 areas in the beta to go between, from the town hub to open world and so on. But we know that they will be adding seasons, and with each new season in Wayfinder, it will bring new Wayfinders, new weapons, but also new areas will be added for you to explore as well. So the world is going to expand over time as it's released into early access this May with each update, similar to how Warframe has evolved and grown over the years in its 10-year period. And since my community is primarily based around Warframe, I need to again reiterate that some of the systems I'm going to show from Wayfinders have strong similarities to what you're used to, which means you will be able to hit the ground running in terms of understanding how they work and what best way to min-max everything. Like the game's ecosystem, it is a modding system very similar to what Warframe has, which allows you to put echoes into your Wayfinder that cost a certain amount of echo capacity. Enemies will drop these echoes, and a lot of these echoes will basically be named after the enemy, so you're going to know where to go to farm in order to get these echoes. They also have polarities, which will match the slot that they need to sit into, that will reduce the cost of those echoes. But also, as you level up, it will increase your Wayfinder's overall echo capacity. You can also level up each echo individually, which at the same time is going to increase their cost, in the same way you can level up mods in Warframe. So some echoes might be green, blue or purple quality, but you will have different levels to them. A green echo might have 5 levels, but a purple has 10 levels, and you can fuse other echoes into one another to level that echo up, just like you can with Endo into mods in Warframe. And each one of these echoes will have a certain set of stats on them, like crit rating and physical defense or health and weapon power. So it's going to allow you to balance out your build or go either way. You could go full tank or go full glass cannon, depending on what you want, or you could go full crit and crit power, depending on the passive. I think Silo has a passive that is pretty much built around crit. On top of the ecosystem, you have the Affinity system, which is another way to further power up your Wayfinder and alter their playstyle, instinct, discipline and focus. Each one has a set of passive perks for certain levels that you will reach on them, and each school will increase a certain set of stats. Now, it is a system that I'm used to, and it is also going to allow a lot of different build diversity, especially when you put in the weapons that can also have their affinity increased depending on what you want to build for. So outside of min-maxing, which I'm sure the game is going to have min-maxing, there's going to be a fair amount of variety between different players running the same Wayfinder. Now, when you first jump into Wayfinder, you will be given the option of 3 Wayfinders to begin your story with after the tutorial. Wingrave the Templar with his sword and shield. He's basically a Wayfinder that can tank and heal. Silo, who is the tech guy with his signature rifle and gadgets that can zap, crowd control and blow enemies up while setting them on fire. And the final choice is Nis, who is a dagger-wielding shadow dancer who honestly hits like a feckin' truck. Now, I'll go over each of these in more detail in tomorrow's video, but there is 2 others that we know about, but we didn't have much access to those in the beta. We got a little bit of access of Senja toward the end, but I didn't get to level her up. Now, each character will have their own voice acting and backstory for you to unravel as you level them up and play through the game's story. But if you are worried about character customization and everyone looking the same, because I know that's a big talking point right now, or you want to stand out from the crowd, then I would honestly say don't worry. Wayfinder will be adding a lot of customization in a similar way to what Warframe has, with armor skins, attachments, color palettes, trinkets and so on for each Wayfinder, and we know that their monetization model is going to follow Warframe's heavily as well. Everything that you can see in game will be farmable. There is also a Founders Pack coming out before the game goes live with items that you can never get again, so if you missed out on Excalibur Prime with Warframe, then that's one you might want to look at. So while I've really enjoyed the beta, and I think this game has a ton of potential, I think I have about 50 hours in the beta alone, it definitely had some issues with crashes, with unfinished UI items, and I know I was told that the UI is being worked on heavily. Getting stuck was an issue for a lot of players, either on scenery or inside chests when you open them, and the waypoint system for the quests, for the quest tracker, for showing up where you're supposed to go to talk to NPCs and so on, was definitely something that needed to be worked on. But it is a closed beta, specifically for testing the game. It wasn't a pre-release beta like other games have done in the past, where it's almost just an early access that you get a few days early. So it was not full release, and early access for Wayfinder isn't for another 3 months. But I played it mostly solo, and it felt a bit like a home away from home in relation to what I'm used to with Warframe. I kind of just slotted into knowing exactly how the systems worked, and the Digital Extremes influence. Very similar systems for echoes, character farming and building. Wayfinders are unique with set roles. There's only one healer right now, but I think they're working on a second, and I have a third one slated for further on down the line. Weapons can be used by any Wayfinder, so you could have a tank with a gun, or you could have a silo with a sword and shield, you get the idea. And while the combat is slower than what I'm used to with Warframe, it was really good fun. I wasn't overpowered, and I got humbled quite a few times when I thought the last expedition was a little bit too easy, so let's try one that had a few power levels higher than what I currently was. I also went against that fire golem, I think at level 18, thinking how hard can it hit, it'll be fine, only to get one-shotted. But that's my experience with the beta so far, and some of the things that you can expect with Wayfinder when it goes live with early access later this year in May. Let me know what you think of the footage you've seen and of the systems that I've spoken about as well, what you like, what you don't like. Have a great day, and as always, thanks for watching.